Okay, I'm going to talk through a typical unit and how to embed AtL within it. This is a unit called Climate Under the Microscope for grade 9, year 4 of the MYP. And this unit's statement of inquiry was the impacts of climate change on communities will vary over time, place and space. So we just talk through what the major components of this unit are. Firstly, the concept, time, place and space, the related concepts of processes, causality and scale, and then the overarching umbrella context is globalisation and sustainability, and an exploration into human and physical impacts on the environment.
Okay, let's have a look at how you document the approach to learning skills on your unit planners on ManageBack. So here is the unit Climate Under the Microscope, and if we scroll down we can see the summative and formative assessments are documented. Now, once I've identified what my summative assessment strands I'm going to be looking at for this unit, I'm then going to need to make sure that I select appropriate approaches to learning skills that will allow them to develop the skills necessary to be successful in the summative. I'm then going to make sure I build in some formative opportunities for them to practice not necessarily the same context or the same content even of the summative, but it's the skill development and the safe environment to get adequate feedback and to take risks before they do the summative. So, for example, I've identified that in order to develop my knowledge and understanding, I'm going to need to adequately teach my students some researching skills. Now, on ManageBack, I've identified the individual strands that I need to be developing in media and information literacy. And on the right-hand side, I've documented the explicit skill, strategy, tools, and activities that the students are going to be developing. So here's the skill, and then underneath, I've documented what I actually am going to be doing and what the students are going to be learning in order for them to be given an explicit experience on developing these skills. Let's have a look at how Desiree has been developing her researching skills.
So in the course of developing the AtL skills, which were to locate, organize, analyze, evaluate, synthesize, and ethically use information from a variety of sources and media, we generally try to find different techniques of researching. So whenever we research, we go through the MIS research cycle, which clearly outlines the steps. So first of all, we have to tune in to formulate questions which we want to base our research on. Then afterwards, we have to find out, so plan the different things we want to find out. Then we have to sort out the data, so find out which data is relevant or which data is not. Then we go further and record all the data from different sources, which is important. And then afterwards, we make conclusions by organizing and interpreting the data which we already collected. And then we take action by using the data in different projects or in the essay. Then, so generally, this is my research which I have created, and whenever I research, I always try to use the post-it note strategy, which clearly enables me to use the different post-its and synthesize the relevant data which I need for the essay. Additionally, I used color coding and different clear headings, which helped me to subdivide all the categories which I'm addressing. Also, I used different maps and different graphs, which helped me analyze the data which I've collected. Additionally, it's important to, when you research, to have different sources. So, for example, we went to the library to not only use the computer and the online sources which are provided, but also to use books. Additionally, we also analyzed magazines, which showed our critical research skills.
Okay, coming back to ManageBack then. My second assessment strand is communication. And within communication, I've decided that I need to be teaching my students explicitly how to organise and structure their information. And in my learning experiences on the right, I've looked at a variety of different activities that the students will work through in order to develop an understanding of how to better organise and structure their information. I'm now going to move over to Ella, who's going to talk through what those activities are.
In order to focus on our communication skills, we practice 2 AtL skills, structuring our essays and organizing it logically. By doing so, we follow a structure of PEEL: point, explain, example, and link, and then leading to a conclusion. To practice these, we can put it in a flow map, which is sequencing all the events in order. Then we can also practice putting it into a multiplier effect, which is basically a sequence of negative events. For example, droughts in Syria lead to increased rural-urban migration, which then leads to farmer loose crops, food insecurity, possible famine, and poor governance. And that's basically the effects of the effects, to summarize that. Then we can also focus on connectives to further on extend our writing. By using words such as for, whereas, and while, and others, we are doing so.
And lastly, critical thinking. I need to be teaching my students how to evaluate evidence and arguments and consider ideas from multiple perspectives. And I've got a variety of different learning experiences that I'm going to be embedding within my teaching and learning to support the students with these skills and explaining to them explicitly how these link to their final summative assessment. I've now got some students who are going to talk through some of those activities.
To develop the AtL skill, considering ideas from other perspectives and points of view, we had an activity of the thinking hats. The red thinking hat was writing down our gut reaction to the statement are developing countries more vulnerable to climate change than developed countries. It is important to get your gut reaction out so that then you can go into other perspectives such as the disagree statement and the agree statement and go into more detail with them and see them with a clearer head. Then, for example, if you don't get your gut reaction out and you just go straight to disagree, you may not disagree and you may agree, and then you may not see from the disagreeing perspective. Another activity we played or did to further develop this AtL skill was the add, build, and challenge, throwing the ball around. Here, you could either add to a point that somebody else had said, build on that point, or challenge with an opposing point against what they had said. This was also to consider ideas from other perspectives with the challenging and adding, but then the building was to understand where their perspective was and where they were coming from.
In order to develop critical thinking, we needed to improve other skills such as evaluating evidence and arguments. For example, we had a card search where we had 9 statements and we had to think about them and now put them into order of which was having impacts or which was least impact. We put them into different headings which we classified as socially, economic, and environmentally. Towards the end, after looking at each of them individually, we came up with a mind map which we could use for our assessment by having the information and labeling them, 1 being the most impacted and 9 being the least.
Okay, so in summary, here is my unit on one piece of paper. On the right hand side we have the summative. The summative strands link to the formative practice. The formative link and are supported by the learning experiences, and those come from the AtL, which have been decided at the beginning, and that is embedding AtL.